All right, the time is now 6 o'clock and we will call the City Council regular meeting on Monday, August 24, 2026 to order. All stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have the roll call, please.
Mayor Donovan.
Here.
Councilwoman Niner.
Here.
Councilman Duma.
Here.
Councilman Patterson.
Here.
Councilman Elliott.
Here.
Quorum being present, is there any objection to the agenda as presented? Hearing none, it will be approved by unanimous consent. Is there any objection to the consent agenda as presented? Hearing none, it will be approved by unanimous consent. So the first item that we have is a presentation. Connie Whitlock, if you'd like to.
Hello. One of the things, I've got to keep me brief because I know you guys have a long night. One of the things I love about small towns is our traditions. We have traditions that have been around so long that sometimes we forget that there was a first time. At some point, somebody had an idea. Somebody decided it was worth doing, and a tradition began. And I'd like to create one of those traditions. When PH MOMAG started the Cass County Fair Photo Contest, I was really looking for pictures because I can't be everywhere because I'm just one person right now. So I'm like trying to think, how are some ways that we could get some pictures? I really didn't know what to expect, but when the photographs started coming in, I was surprised by how much it touched me. I mean, it just really grabbed my heart. As a writer, I'm used to looking at the fair, thinking about what needs to be covered, the events, the people, the results, and the story. But these photographs showed something different. They showed the fair through the eyes of the people who were actually experiencing it. They captured little moments, what caught someone's eye, what made them stop, and what the fair looked and felt like to them. And this year, one photograph stood out. Everybody voted online. We had some fun with it. And Big Dreams in a Small Town, caught up in the magic of the arena, photographed by Layla Menino. She couldn't be here tonight. She's out of town, but she is a senior at PHHS. And it captures Levi Hanner and the Cass County Fair crowd. There's just something about it that feels really special. A young person, a crowd gathered together, and one of those moments that might otherwise come and go without ever being preserved. Since this is the City of Pleasant Hills Fair, and you guys do a great job, by the way. I don't know, as long as I've been here, last, 20, 30 years, it's just amazing. We felt this photograph belongs to you guys, the city, and with the community it represents. So on behalf of PH MOMAG, I am very happy to present the winning photograph from our first Cass County Fair photo contest to the City of Pleasantville.
Thank you.
Isn't that sweet? It's sweet. They did a good job.
Want to take a picture? You guys, yeah, look at me. I'll take some pictures.
Thanks. Thank you.
You gotta take one more picture.
Chief, do we have the sign-in table, bring it up here so that way we can have this thing sitting right here until we can get it put up on the wall? We'll give it a college try. Perfect. we can get a break.
By we, I mean me.
Yeah. I'll just sit right there for now. All right, perfect.
Thank you, Connie. That is a phenomenal picture.
All right. I will, is there a motion to enter into a public hearing for the tax levy?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to enter into a public hearing for the 2026 tax levy. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilman Nyder? Yes. Councilwoman Dewar?
Yes.
Councilman Patterson?
Yes.
Councilman Elliott?
Yes.
All right, we are now in a public hearing.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. The city is required to advertise and hold a public hearing in order to establish the annual tax rates. The rates are validated by the state auditor to determine the maximum allowable levies for each category. This public hearing is part of the annual process for setting the 2026 tax levy. The city did advertise in the city's tax levies in the Tribune and Times at the maximum allowable rates, although they can be rolled back at the council's discretion. As you can see, we get assessed valuations from Cass County and Jackson County. We put those into the state auditor's pro forma. It calculates what our tax levy can be. So as you can see, the general fund, Parks and Rec, Public Health and Transportation was the same as it is this last year of 2025. It's set the same. The debt levy, we advertise it at the maximum allowable rate of 1.0902. I recommend that we roll that back to 0.5559, which is what our tax levy was last year, fiscal year 25. Just one more thing, the additional revenue that this will bring in for the pro forma over all categories is $2,415.
And that's with the proposed keeping it the same.
Yes, that is correct.
Is there anyone from the public that would care to comment?
Is it about this or something else?
It would be about the tax levy. We're in the. Is there anything from the council to add? Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Do we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilwoman Ryder?
Yes.
Councilman Dewar?
Yes.
Councilman Patterson?
Yes.
Councilman Elliott?
Yes.
All right. The public hearing is now closed. Now we'll open up the floor to public comment. Anyone who's wishing to speak on an item that is not on the agenda, please step to the mic. Give us your name and address, and please remember to just address the council and keep your comments to under 3 minutes.
Hi, my name's W.K. Hendrickson. I live at 1406 Blondell Avenue, and this is in regards to the children's crosswalks, school crosswalks. I did some homework because I didn't know whether to address this. It says, in Missouri, both white pavement markings on the street and warning signs are required to officially and legally establish a designated school crosswalk. Signs alone are not sufficient. So I didn't drive everywhere to see, but I go by Country Club all the time, and I wanted to show you how the white lines are. They're not very good. And after I took the picture, I went on the crosswalk, and some lady she wouldn't let me know, she just went on through. I don't know if making it wider will help, but it definitely needs to be done, and they might check all the crosswalks for children because that's a big safety issue.
Do you guys want to see this picture?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm a nervous person.
I go down it every day.
Do you see it? Do you need to see it? Yeah. All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public?
John Self, 205 South Campbell. I'll try to be brief. I know you got a whole thing. In the work session, Carla Murray said something that really resonated with me. She said until you get the community involved, downtown specifically, but I think in general, all the civic engagement is useless. And that makes me really happy to see all these people here tonight. When I was going door to door, the single biggest complaint I heard was there's nothing to do in Pleasant Hill. And I hear people chuckling over that. I started looking into that, and I've seen where we've had scheduling conflicts with city events on our calendar and things with nonprofits here in town. People don't know when events are happening. We see meetings that aren't very well publicized. And I would like to ask the city to consider aggressively pursuing the calendar that's on the city website. Because most of the time when the people I talk to about this issue ask, what can we do, where can we find these things? I would say, well, go to Facebook. And about 60% of the time, they're not on Facebook, period. And that seems to be the city's primary method of communicating with residents. And the city website's available to everybody. The newsletter's debatable. But Connie Whitlock's calendar on her PH MoMag, if you think there's nothing to do in this town, you have not been on her calendar. There's something almost every night. And I feel like the city could incorporate that in a more public way so that residents can stop feeling like there's so little to do in this town. I understand not every event is family friendly, not every event is something you can publish, but I would like to ask the city to try and coordinate because there is plenty to do in Pleasant Hill. People just aren't hearing about it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from?
Point of information, is this for items not on the agenda? Or
Yes.
Or not on the agenda?
For items
Okay.
not on the agenda.
Thank you.
All right, if there's nothing else from the public, we'll move on to items for consideration. The special event application of Notables Trail of Terror.
Hello. I'm Marion Van Colley. I am the Notables Vice President, and I live on 1206 Wright Street. And I am wanting to ask or get approval for the Trail of Terror. We're changing the name this year back to what it used to be instead of a haunted trail in hopes that last year there were a lot of small kids. So we're hoping calling it terror, maybe there won't be as many little kids, we'll see. But, so, yeah, just getting that approval. I have a couple of amendments to my application because we've discussed since that there's a chance of a district football game that night. We won't know until that week, basically, or the week before. And we've really stretched it with scheduling this year. There's not many, or there aren't any other dates that would work. And so we were thinking that normally we ended at 9. And we were thinking if we ended it later, then more people could come after the game if there were to be a home football game. So I wasn't sure what that looked like, if there was like an 11 o'clock, something like that. And another thing that is related-ish is that we may be making adjustments to our carnival that we do every year. And we had thought about for the younger kids before the trail starts, since it's the safe trick-or-treating, we've got the city's largest inflatable obstacle course. And so we were gonna do that and maybe bring a game or two from the carnival and pass out candy to incorporate all of it. But our concern was that there would be not income generated from the games, but from the bounce house. So I don't know if I need to document that officially, or if I can just say that, but that is my two things.
Where would you put
Where we usually have the tickets over in the field in front of the co-op, or no, I don't know, where the grain bins are. There's a big grass field, I don't know what that building is called.
Okay.
But that's where our table normally
It's the
sits.
elevator.
The elevator, grain
So
elevator.
I think the problem with that is that land is not actually city-owned property.
Okay,
That's actually Carla Murray's property, I believe.
oh,
So you might want to have a conversation with her,
okay,
and try to work something out with her.
Okay.
I'm not sure how that's gonna work out, but is there any city-owned property that's near there that, I mean, I don't know how big this,
it's
this
like
is.
75 feet long.
Because there is that other city lot over there, isn't there?
Open board when it's trees.
Okay. So that would work. Okay,
Yeah,
We can talk.
we can talk.
Okay,
We'll figure, I've got some stuff going on too, but we'll figure something out together.
okay. Deal.
okay.
So the main thing, I think, as far as like what they're doing extra in addition to the Trail of Terror really is irrelevant to us as a council, correct? So
Correct.
the main change that is relevant is the extension of the time.
Okay,
So we would need to modify this to account for that. Okay.
You're wanting to go till 11?
yeah, I mean, that was the thought. I didn't know what our option would be, but I felt like 11, then we could be cleaned up and out by midnight-ish. Maybe some, but we try to clean up quick and get out there.
Oh, I did the trail for.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And what road closures do we need? They're on here, I guess.
Okay,
I don't,
I
I need to hear them, like.
So
It's,
okay. The road closures that they are requesting is the same as it's been in previous years. It would be barricades at Olive and Boardman, Hall and Boardman, and 175th and Boardman. So basically along Boardman Street at those intersections, just to keep people from entering the area.
And we don't need, approval from any of the homeowners or property owners or anything like that, do we?
I mean, that's up to you all. I mean, in the past, it is not because they can still access it. They can still access it. It just keeps vehicular traffic from
Okay, no, I'm fine.
entering or
Yeah,
exiting.
yeah, I just, when you said that, I thought maybe we should ask.
yeah,
And then it's,
One question about, it's the timing, why is it 4 o'clock? Why do you need it closed at 4 o'clock?
well, we set up, technically, as long as the blockades or whatever are available, we don't necessarily need to shut those off,
Close it down
because
until 7.
especially with the, like, we don't wanna block off parking for the safe trick or treating. So, maybe we would need it before 7, but we could, like, we have someone stationed at each block intersection, so they can pull them over, right when it's necessary.
And you just need an officer at 175th and Boardman.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why, yeah, we've had that.
And I know it says on here, Chief Clay, that may be an issue.
Got it. I think we'll be okay. We got enough
Even
time.
going later.
Yeah, I think we'll be fine.
Okay.
Even if there's a football game and it's the same trail as we've been out stationed and posted for, so I think we can make it all work in cahoots.
Has it been a problem over there? Because I mean, I remember I used to be stationed over there when my kids were going through that, as, you know, the person that was guarding that blockade, so
At 175th?
yeah.
I think that there was only one person last year that tried to go through anyways, or, I don't know, I was all over the place last year, so I'm not sure exactly, but I don't think, I mean, there hasn't been
Any major problems
Yeah,
or anything?
fighting
Okay.
or.
Okay.
Well, I would make a motion to approve their special events application with those amendments. Other than, I would like to see us take putting the barricades up at 4 p.m. I
Okay,
think we need to get through safe trick or treating.
okay, but would it, if they're there and just not put out? Okay, yeah, I don't think that would be a problem at all.
Councilwoman Under, if I may, I think also the time at 4 o'clock, and if I recall, we can go back and look at previous applications, was not always that the barricades were out that early, but at that point is also when we shut the trail down to public use so that they can set up. So it's kind of an all-inclusive timeline of their request, not necessarily, maybe the memo that we put together wasn't worded exactly, but I don't think the barricades have ever been out as of 4 o'clock, but that's kind of when their request starts because the trail will shut down so they can set up.
Okay, that makes sense.
And typically, we don't always have safe trick or treat on the same night we have the.
Well, yeah, because
That
this is normally on a Saturday.
It's
right?
normally a Saturday and band and things.
The barricades may very well have been out at that point because it was a Saturday and not a weekday, so.
Which I don't remember. Yeah, the chamber we had talked to them about this and thought it was actually kind of a complimentary, event for the downtown area all in one night. Because their event ends at 6 o'clock.
So do we have the ticketing area? Is that gonna be taking place on your property, Carla? Or is that not? Am I confused on that?
You want me to ask the question now, or do you want me to wait?
Come on.
Yeah, we don't want you to forget.
We'll figure it out, okay? So
Okay.
don't panic, so we'll figure something out.
I'm not
I've turned in and I've been working with Missy on, putting food trucks on that lot, as we planned to do with the new UDC and all that's finally done. I had food trucks scheduled there that night because I didn't know these guys were gonna be there, and I thought, what an opportunity, we've got 4 to 6 safe trick or treating, I can put food trucks on that. I'm fine with it being shut off, and I can limit the food trucks where we can put the obstacle course there, but will people be able to get to my business basically, or will they not be able to go through the barricades to get to the business? Sorry.
Foot traffic would be okay.
Foot traffic
Yeah.
will get through, okay.
Yeah,
That was my
it's
question.
just for cars.
The rest of it we'll figure out together.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay.
So I'll go back to my motion and leave the 4, just 4 to 11. Leave it as is.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other comments from council?
Okay.
Is there any other comments from the public? Well, roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman Naito?
Yes.
Councilman Beamer?
Yes.
Councilman Patterson?
Yes.
Councilman Elliott?
Yes.
Thank you, guys.
There you go. All right, the next item for consideration is the road closure request for 306 Cedar Street.
Thank you, sir. Recently, our Historic Preservation Commission had a meeting to allow for the demolition of the building commonly known as the Tucker Hotel, located at 306 Cedar Street. With this demolition, the property owner / applicant is asking for permissions to close Cedar Street between Taylor and, I'm sorry, I just lost it, Veterans Parkway, beginning at 7 a.m. this Thursday, August 27th, and remain closed until 5 p.m. on August 28th. This will just allow him time to complete the demolition, and for safety reasons to keep the patrons of the city safe while they're doing that demolition. I'm sorry, I should add, he's also asking that the alleyway that is currently blocked to remain blocked at least through September 2nd, so that that allows for sufficient cleanup and regrading of the property as well.
We don't have any kind of memorial for that. I feel like it needs some recognition.
Yeah.
Is there a motion from the council?
I'll make a motion to approve the road closure request.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from council on it? Is there any comment from anyone in the public? All right, with the motion and the second, we will have a roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman Niner,
Yes.
Councilman Deemer,
Yes.
Councilman Patterson,
Yes.
Councilman Elliott.
Yes.
The road closure is granted. The next item for consideration is budget amendment 2027-04, the Public Works parking lot and fuel tanks.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I bring forth a request to carry forward, it's budget amendment 2027-04. It's for Public Works fuel tank and parking lot. As I stated in my year-end financials, I was gonna bring forth a few budget amendments to carry forward expenditures that I estimated last year. They just are gonna want it to be paid this year because they weren't finished at the end of the year. It does not affect our fund balance at all. It is moving the expenditure from last year and estimate to this year's budget. So I request a budget amendment 2027-04 for $28,617 to the account, GL account, I call it 15-515-5012 in capital improvement sales tax.
I'll make a motion to approve budget amendment 2027-04.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any comment from or discussion from council? Is there anyone in the public that would like to? All right, motion and a second. We'll have a roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman Niner,
Yes.
Councilman Deemer,
Yes.
Councilman Patterson,
Yes.
Councilman Elliott.
Yes.
That budget amendment has passed. Next item for consideration is budget amendment 2027-05, the Public Works renovations.
Thank you, it's me again. I have a few here tonight. This one is budget amendment 2027-05. It's the Public Works renovation carry forward. Council last year approved renovating the Public Works building. A portion of it was not completed until this year. I did have it in my year-end estimates, so I just want to carry forward $14,000 from last year's budget to this year, so it does not affect our fund balance. And it would go into account 10-510-4500. That's my general ledger account.
I'll make a motion to approve budget amendment 2027-06 for the city hall.
We're on 05.
What?
Oh,
We're on 05.
4. Did I say 4?
No, you said 5, she said 6.
Okay.
Do I have my pages out?
I will. Unless it's in there.
This is the one
Okay, sorry.
That's why,
2027-05,
that's
sorry.
why I go through and put all these tabs on.
I didn't lick my fingers enough.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion with the council? Any comment from the public? We'll have a roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman Niner,
Yes.
Councilman Deemer,
Yes.
Councilman Patterson,
Yes.
Councilman Elliott.
Yes.
All right, the next item for consideration is budget amendment 2027-06, the city hall roof replacement.
All right, thank you. As part of our fiscal year 26, we budgeted to spend $200,000 last fiscal year on the city hall renovation, or city hall roof replacement. I would request budget amendment of $175,260 to be carried forward to this year. We did spend $24,740 of that budget last year, so this is the remainder. This is, we estimated in our year, and this is not the same budget amendment that we did prior to the city hall. That was an additional expense that you guys approved. This is just to carry forward from last fiscal year to this year. And that would come out of general ledger account 15-515-5060.
And what did we spend the 24,000 on already?
It was some on engineering and I think part of the, canopy over the ATM.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve budget amendment 2027-06.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion with council? Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak? We'll have a roll call vote, please.
Councilman Niner,
Yes.
Councilman Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilman Patterson,
Yes.
Councilman Elliott.
All right, that budget amendment has passed. The next item for consideration is also a budget amendment. It's budget amendment 2027-07, the Second Street parking lot carried forward.
Thank you. Just like the prior three budget amendments, this is budget amendment 2027-07. It's the Second Street parking lot carried forward. We budgeted and I estimated it at our year-end fiscal year because we do our estimates 2 months before our actual budget gets approved. So I budgeted spending the $96,800 last year. I just need to request getting it carried forward to fiscal year 27. This does not affect our fund balance percentage, and it would be coming out of 15-515-5060.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget amendment 2027-07.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from council? Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak on this item? We'll have a roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman Niner,
Yes.
Councilman Zimmer,
Yes.
Councilman Patterson.
Yes.
Councilman Elliott.
Yes.
The next item for consideration is the Veterans Parkway traffic improvement.
Thank you, Mayor. As Callie bringing this up, this is a discussion we had at the last council meeting regarding some improvements for traffic flow and parking on Veterans Parkway. So last week, our last council meeting, there was quite a bit of discussion, and we wanted to make sure that a lot of people had an opportunity to see what we were looking at doing. So if you want to go to the next slide. So I just put together some brief information, kind of give you an overview of what we have existing now. So existing parking spots on Veterans Parkway right now is 58 total parking spots. We have 10 on the west side, 23 on the east side angled, 14 on the west side, which would be south of Paul, and then 11 parking spots down around commercial, which is down in front of the PD. So this was a proposed concept that we had Allstate consultants draw up. I tried to get them guys to come in here today, but they had conflict with their schedules, so we just discussed this over the phone last week. And their proposal, or what they were tasked to do, was to try to find a way to improve our traffic flow, improve our pedestrian safety, and to try to get us some more parking spots. So with their concept, they come up with a total of 61 total parking spaces in that area, same area. So there is 10 on the west side angled, east side would go to 20 parallel parking spaces. And then there would be 9 on the west side, south of Paul Street. And then new on Locust, there would be 4 new on Locust. And then Commercial Street would have a new 18, which is that little parking area. So that would be turned into a one-way street, which will allow us to have parking on both sides to be able to back out. Okay, next slide. So this was the alternate concept that there was a lot of talk. We had some talk in our last council meeting regarding removing the parallel on the west side and leaving the angled parking on the east side. So with this, we would have 10 angled on the west side. The east side would be 22 angled because we would lose one spot up by the stop sign at Cedar and Veterans Parkway because of visibility. The other thing with that stop sign up in that corner, this alternate concept, would be that we'll shove that stop sign out farther into that intersection, which will restrict traffic flow for trucks and trailers to come make it around that corner. The new east side, you have 4 parallels down by the park right there. You have the 4 on Locust. And then the west side parallels, you have 0. And then Commercial Street, you would have the 18 for a total of 58. So it would be a wash, basically, on parking spots. So, and then if you go to the next slide, this is part of the reason that we're looking for this is because of the bottleneck that ends up here in front of the post office. This is our MoDOT Business Route 7. So you can see the black line, that is the Missouri State designated business route that comes down through Pleasant Hill. My concept would reroute that, or at least give an alternate route to come down Cedar Street, turn on Veterans, go all the way down, turn on Commercial, and hit 58 and go back out. So I just wanted to present that. Kind of gives you a little bit better of an idea of how many parking spots we were looking at and why we were looking at it. So we can just open it up to comments and questions if you'd like.
Is there anything from the council on this?
I just want to make sure that we have plenty of time for public comment.
What, do we have any signs that, say no trucks over, like tractor trailer trucks I'm talking, is there any way that, is there any signs down there that would port them to 58 to go down to 7 on 58?
No, at this time, no, we don't have anything. That's probably something that we could put in place, but that was something, I would have to work with MoDOT on the business route before we could ever designate that or change it.
I'm not sure. What are you asking, Brenda?
Well, there's like the big trucks, I don't see why they need to be coming up this road. When they're on 58, they just turn right and go to 7 Highway instead of going down Cedar, they could go down.
He made the point that they're gonna have to move that stop sign out there in the middle of the road. And that's gonna be a problem if you're turning right, and you got a big old truck.
And even with a large dually pickup with a long trailer, it's gonna make that corner difficult. Not necessarily just with semis or tractor trailers.
You have to leave the road open for tractor trailers going to the.
Okay. If you want to make a comment, you're gonna have to come to the podium, okay? Okay, is there anything else from?
My other concern is the one-way in front of the police station. I think there's gonna be a little bit of a learning curve there, but I guess if we sign it up just right, I can live with that.
And that was all designed by Allstate, so the sign will all be in place with this project.
Is there a stop sign right now in Cedar and Veterans? I'm just drawing a blank.
No.
No, it's a three-way.
It's a three-way,
Yeah.
it's a three-way right now.
That's a three-way.
Which is part of the problem where.
It's very good.
Right, people are.
I mean, I've lived here 45 years and I've never had a problem with stopping there.
I know I've gotten almost hit a couple times there.
I'm with Don, I've almost pulled out in front of somebody. Same scenario.
Okay, if there's nothing more from the council, we'll open up the floor to public comment. Again, please come to the microphone, state your name and address, and I just ask that you address the council and you keep your comments to under 3 minutes.
Claudia Freeland, 24503 East 172nd Terrace. If it's a wash in parking spots, why can't we just change the road or not change or put a better stop sign?
Well, it's not a, it's So it's not a wash in parking spots. The alternate concept from what it is currently is a wash. The proposal is actually 61 parking spots.
3 more?
So we'll get 3 more parking spots out of it.
Is it cost effective to make 3 extra spots instead of making them, I think they're kind of wide in some areas. I think we like reconfigure them, I don't know, but.
Well, I think the biggest thing is with the initial proposed concept, it's all parallel parking on the east side. Whereas with the alternate concept, you keep the angle parking and you lose some of the parallel parking right there across from the post office.
Right. Like across the street from the post office, not in front of the post office.
Yeah, the situation with it is so that way we can get 2 cars to actually go down that road at the same time. That's the goal.
In front of the post office.
Right.
Okay, it's kind of slim right now.
So,
You're
right. So in order to do that, we have to eliminate something, right? So it either goes from angle to parallel along that side and then it's open, or we gotta eliminate the parallel on the other side.
Yeah, it's kind of parallel.
And so that's where it's at. And if we eliminate the parallel on the other side, we're not gonna be, we're gonna have the same number of parking spots.
Okay.
However, if we go with the proposal, we'll actually gain 3 more parking spots.
Thank you.
Gene Peakston on 1502 Broadway. One clarification. Are you talking about parallel parking all the way down from the post office clear to Cedar?
Yes.
We need to take into consideration, I work at the thrift store. We have a lot of seniors. I don't think they can parallel park. They have walkers and they have canes and they can park close to the thrift store. If you take away from that parking, we're hurting.
Well, you will still have the angled parking over here by the memorial building. So it would literally just be walking across the street, which then there would be a stop sign there. So that way, it's not a situation where you're trying to cross as people are just going through that.
I can't see that, I'm sorry. So, and why, could you just knock out the parking there across from the post office in front of the old library?
And that is the alternate proposal.
That is the alternate.
The alternate
Okay,
proposal,
I couldn't tell.
and that's what's going to be a net. It's going to be a wash of parking spots.
Okay.
We're not going to gain any parking by doing
Well, that's okay, but this alternate looks better than the other with parallel. I'm afraid for this.
I think you bring up a valid point because it makes them getting out into
It's scary for them. Where it's angled parking lot, they don't have to worry about banging their door or get somebody banging it when they get out parallel parking. Or getting their walker out and all that. Just the thought.
Okay.
Thank you.
Don, if I could just mention one thing, with leaving angled parking on that east side, that also minimizes the visibility of people backing in and out. It makes it not as safe as the parallel because the visibility off of the parallel is much greater than off of the angled parking spot.
Yeah, because they're basically going to be backing out blind.
You almost have
into
to
traffic.
back out completely into that lane in order to be able to see if there's somebody down there. So just want to know that.
Hi, I'm Debbie K. Hendrickson, 1406 Mondale Avenue, Pleasant Hill, Missouri. And last time I was here and this time, I never heard, how much is this costing and where is the money coming from? I'm just curious. Thank you.
It was in the initial, this part of it was what, 1,800 for painting and everything and signs? It was on the last, it was in our last deal.
No, I don't
It's out my
have,
truck.
because this is basically, we're gonna go to bid, but
Yeah,
we
so-
have kind of an estimated
I
cost.
guess I misunderstood that.
Right. I mean, so the situation with it is before we even go out for bid and try to figure out how much this is going to cost us, we want to make sure that the plan going forward, that, you know, that it's approved that we go forward with this type of plan, because if this is something that's not gonna, be passed by the council, then there's no point in trying to put it out for bid and everything else, so that's why we're going through this process now.
Sorry, I misunderstood. I thought you already figured out and you're just trying to get everybody's
It's all good.
approval.
So Claudia Fraley, 24503 East 172nd Terrace. One thing, I noticed there's not a lot of crosswalks in town. A lot of people walk here. I walked from over there and I can even see on the diagram there's not many crosswalks. Why we have the paint out, could they do that and like touch up Myrtle and 7 as well? Because a lot of kids walk that way from school and make it wider and yellow or whatever. I've seen kids run and cars don't see them, but they could do a little more in crosswalks too.
Do you own a business here in Pleasant Hill?
I'm sorry?
Do you live in the city limits or own a business in Pleasant Hill?
I do not live in the city limits, but I have a business. But yes.
Alan Brown at 116 Veterans Parkway here. So I'm an owner of the Revive, and I understand the danger there in front of the post office, but pretty much everyone I've talked to on Veterans Parkway is not for this. I know the math says that we're gaining 3 spots, but that's like for an elderly person going, most of those spots are on Commercial Street. That's 2 blocks away. And so for me, like I have, my foot traffic in a year is like 15, 20,000 people. 99% of them park either parallel in front of my shop or the business next door. So to lose the spaces in front of us, it's gonna be a problem. We're also talking someone into buying, a 20-gallon crock and carrying it 2 blocks. It's gonna be a deciding factor. And so I guess my big thing is I don't know anybody that wants this who's on Veterans Parkway. And also I think it is a busy street, so I think people trying to parallel park, especially maybe a older demographic of people on Veterans Parkway, maybe not, it's gonna create a bottleneck. And also, and I don't mean any contempt, but I've been downtown for 8 years, and I think I've seen white paint like maybe 15% of the time on the street. So if we're not marking these parallel spots that are already decreasing the spots, it's just gonna be like somebody here and someone and a half, a spot and a half up here, and it's really gonna be limited parking in front of our businesses. So that's my opinion.
Anthony Barrett, 400 South State, Route 7. It's probably been brought up, you guys probably have talked about it already, but what's the feasibility of just creating Veterans Parkway as a one-way and increasing leaving the parking as it is? Much like you're doing on Commercial Street, just following it through to Veterans Parkway.
Well, I think the whole thing is if it's gonna be Missouri Business 7, it can't be a one-way street, it has to be a 2-way.
I have a question, actually. Carla Murray, 300 North Campbell Street, Pleasant Hill, Missouri. And this would probably be something Tony will have to answer, but, so I understand why we need to do this, because I understand that it's Missouri Business 7, and I understand downtowns have to be walkable, and you're not always gonna have a parking space just right. I'm not either when I do things down here, because that's not the purpose of a downtown, right? But with that being said, if we want a business 7, right? Because you want people to have a business district where you do come downtown, you can go hit 58. You don't want to lose that. If it goes back, if we don't do this and we don't widen this enough to make that happen, and we keep it on Wyoming and First Street where it's typically been in the past, what's going to happen to Wyoming and First Street to allow that traffic to flow through there? So what are the consequences if we don't do this fully at Veterans Parkway and it doesn't meet the criteria that we need for MoDOT to have business highway go down Veterans Parkway? And we keep it on Wyoming Street to First Street? What has to change on Wyoming Street to First Street to make that applicable? Does that make sense? Okay.
I get your question. I think right now it's more of a consideration of the bottleneck in front of the post office. I think my feeling is the Missouri 7 thing is, the Business 7 is more of a secondary consideration in this process. And there is a bottleneck there, and that's how we're all here.
My name is J.R. Brown. I live at 800 Coachman Drive in Pleasant Hill. And I've just heard several people comment about elderly parking for the thrift store. I know that would also be an issue for the Big Creek Country Show that brings in a fairly large audience when they have shows. I just wanted to add that I'm 40 years old. My wife's 42, and I have a 16-year-old daughter, and none of us are any good at parallel parking.
Well, that is a good point, because, I talked to several people about this, and they suggested that I put it out for question. Raise your hand if you're good at parallel parking.
All of you, raise your hand.
I'm much better now that I have a camera.
Julie Brown, 116 Veterans Parkway. I also want to echo the People's Theater couldn't be here tonight, but it is a concern for their elderly customers. They're not going to parallel park, and you're causing them to walk farther. The spots you're adding are on Commercial Street, and that's not going to work for their clientele. I would say angled parking. All cars manufactured after 2012 have a backup camera, so it will beep you as you're backing up and if they're still coming. I also think if you move the parallel parking on that street, the traffic's going to move faster. And that's just more of a safety concern for those elderly or any customer getting out of their car, people with small kids. So, thank you.
Sir?
Mike Cook, 100 Veterans Parkway. I actually live in Lee Summit, but I'm pretty good at math. Anybody that's been in the thrift store knows that. But I went over and I measured that all off, and there is not going to be more parking, parallel parking. You have 26 spaces if you count the handicap and in between the handicaps. If you go to parallel parking, you go to 15. That's 11 less parking spaces. If you change that, you have to change the ADA and come up to new standards of 2010 regulations. Right now, we're sitting at the 1990 ADA regulations for handicap parking. You have to take all that into consideration because you must have 24 foot for parallel parking for a handicap spot. By state law, you have to have 20 feet for parallel parking. Right now, we're 12.5 feet on your angle parking of curb space. So you're going to lose. So you're going to go down to 15 where you can take out the 11, put a line down the middle of the road so people know where the center of the street is, and place police officers up here to get these guys that are going 50 miles an hour around that curve. That's why people almost get hit out there when they're backing out.
So one thing I just wanted to mention to you, one of the problems we're gonna have is by turning that into a four-way stop, that's where we're losing some of the angled parking. Okay, so the amount of angled parking that's actually gonna be able to be there because of where the stop sign has to be placed in order to have a line of sight to that stop sign, all of the angled parking that's there currently will not be able to remain there.
The two handicap spots won't be there anymore, they'll be pushed back.
So
Now, granted, I haven't been here that long, only 6 years, sitting right there on that corner. And in 6 years, I have not seen an accident there. So you get people honking their horns because people stop at the stop sign that's not there. But you just need to slow people down. Why do you need to, why put a stop sign there? It's been a three-way stop as long as I've been here. I don't know how much longer it has been. I know that they put a curb out there, put a stop sign out there, and it didn't work because the trucks couldn't get around it. If you stick that stop sign out there, they're not going to get around it. I have seen this stop sign up here taken out twice. One from the lady looking to see what we had on the street at this thrift store, and the other one was a semi. But I haven't seen a wreck. And even with the fire trucks coming through there at 60 miles an hour and not stopping at that stop sign, there hasn't been a wreck.
Tony, do we have an option
Thank you, sir.
to do some lights rather than having that sign stick out there and restrict the trucks? Because if they're taking it out on the curb already, then that dog ain't gonna hunt.
I mean, I guess that would be an option we could look at. I could go back to Allstate to his comment, the measurements and all that stuff were done by engineer. This was an engineered project. You're still gonna have to have that stop sign stuck out there because people are coming northbound on Veterans Parkway. They will not be able to see that stop sign unless it's.
Because the cars are there.
Because you have angled parking and it will block the visual to that stop sign.
But we couldn't hang a flashing light in the middle of the.
The plan is to keep the stoplight or the flashing light that's there and change the one lens to red instead of amber. So it indicates a four-way stop.
It's changed over the years. It's changed over the years.
It is there.
I've never noticed.
Yeah, it's been there.
I stopped, I promise, I did stop.
When I was a kid, I was proud of our 2 flashing lights, because we didn't have any stoplights.
Is there any other comment from the public?
John Self again. To Brenda's point, if you stop traffic down there, you have to remember that there's trucks that need to serve the.
I got to, yeah,
Sorry to interrupt you. One thing I do want to raise awareness of is that we do have a lot of parking on Depot Drive, and we're sitting here talking about how we need to improve the depot. So I think promoting that as an option would work, and it's actually technically closer to a lot of that stuff than the parking down there on Commercial Street, and that would also serve the changes to the depot. If you go parallel parking on the east side, remember, people are stepping out of those cars into traffic. If you leave it parallel, but you get rid of the parallel parking on the west side, you do have more room for cars to back out with angled parking because all of the traffic can move over. And then my personal request is, whatever you do with the changes on Veterans Parkway, maybe save the changes at Locust and Commercial Street. Come back in 6 months or a year after you've made this change and make sure that you're okay with this change before you spend a bunch of money making that change. Kind of do the scientific method and make sure that you're not inducing other problems with one fell swoop. So, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ed Clemens. I live at 27309 East 155th Street, which is on the north end of town. As I sit here looking at my notes, most of my thunder's been stolen, but a couple of things. I did an experiment this morning. Before I started, I talked to the people at the post office, which is interesting. There's 188 active post office boxes in that post office. I go to the post office every morning to get my mail. I see the same people every morning getting their mail. There's 188 post office boxes open in that post office for people to come get their mail. The thing I did this morning, I was a little late to work. I sat and watched for a while, just sitting down by the depot. From 8:10 to 9 o'clock. No, 8:10, 9:10. 8:10 to 9 o'clock. 40 vehicles went north on that road. 68 came south in that time period. The issue I see, and what was interesting during that time, 4 people stopped on the parallel side to go to the post office. They didn't pay attention to the lines. They stopped right even with the door of the post office. Got out and walked across the traffic to the post office. There's no crosswalks there. One lady went to her car and got a baby that could have been over 4 months old. Picked her up and carried her across the street twice. There's no crosswalks. They're walking across that traffic all the time. So the issue that I want to raise, and they've been here, the thrift store is open 3 days a week. It's busy. I did talk to the lady that owns People's Theater, Jen. She asked me to put her comments in for her. She's opposed to the changes. She supports the one that eliminates the parallel parking in front of the old library, whatever you call it, okay? But a thought is, why don't you just eliminate that parking, say, between 8 and 4:30, like they do in the cities? No parking this side, 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. That way the spaces are available in the evening. They're available for special functions. People can park there when they go to the theater. Moving the parking down the road from the theater, you're gonna have all those people having to hike up a hill to go to the theater. That's what Jen pointed out to me. And a lot of them are gonna do it. You saw the signs. Everybody's good at parallel parking. Well, yeah. Go ahead. We're gonna have a test later. And especially if you're over 60, hold up your hands. So my point is, and a lot of it's been already said, is I like the alternative plan better. And Tony, by the way, if you need help with the state of Missouri keeping the big trucks out of the city, call me. I'll be happy to help you. After them fixing my corner out there on the highway, there's several of those people know me. Okay? They do, trust me. In fact, there was a memo going around about it, okay? So my point of it is, stop the big trucks from coming through town. Local deliveries only. Good idea. You know where Huguebach Hill Road is? Goes west of 58. I've made a lot of money on trucks going down Huguebach Hill Road because they're not allowed on Huguebach Hill Road. If you can stop big trucks on Huguebach Hill Road, why can't you stop them coming through the middle of town? Huh?
They have to give the.
Okay, local deliveries. But the ones cutting through, let them go down the highway and go up the highway. Keep them out of our town. Because they tear down stop signs, they run over stuff, and you know, we really don't need them. They're not gonna stop anyway. They're not your customers. Limit the size of the trucks. Idea, limit the parking, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. Save the spots, they're good the rest of the time. And, you know, like, I'm serious, Tony, if you need help, I'll be happy to talk to state of Missouri. But I think your alternative plan is better. There's 188 people get their mail there. I can still see that lady carrying her little child across that street with those cars coming down the hill this morning as I was watching. And thinking how many older people park there across the street to go to the post office. People coming down the hill. Not twice as many. 50% more, I'm not good at math, are coming down the hill than going up the hill. So eliminate the parking on that side, give them space to go down, leave it the way it is. And now I kind of agree with Mr. Self. Try that for a while and see what else you need to change. I've never seen a wreck there. So, you know, the people in the theater don't want it to change. He spoke for himself. Trust me, all the people I've talked to at the post office don't want it to change. Because people gotta get to the post office. Oh, 4 of those people stopped this morning and carried packages in. One of them was older, carried a big package. The rest of them got out of their cars, carried packages up the step, came back 15 minutes later when they mailed them. And if you think about them having to parallel park and then get packages out of the car in traffic to go around and go up the steps to the post office. So, in light of my conversation, my emphasis is on the post office. My emphasis is on safety. Safety, I would keep the big trucks out unless I got a special delivery. And use the alternative plan, please.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anything else further from the council?
Well, I guess my only question would be to my fellow members of council is this something that we should sit down as a group and have a cohesive plan, or are we willing to pass one of these concepts?
I'm not sure. I'm not in favor of parallel parking on Veterans Parkway. This is our forum to talk about it, so I think we should talk about it here.
Well, for me, I'm not gonna vote for it either.
Well, what about that alternative concept that has the?
I would have potentially approved that.
I'm just concerned about the stop sign. I'm concerned about the stop sign there. So I don't know that we have a good answer, that I have a good feeling about all of it.
I kind of agree with, I'm sorry to go on. I kind of agree with Zach that maybe we need to be discussing this a little bit more, because I agree with Jessica. I agree with what John said. I think we can do so many changes that we have unintentional consequences. I'm not in favor of parallel parking.
We need in order for us to move forward with either one of these options, we would need a motion from the council.
Well, what I'm saying is, can we make a motion to have a session where we get together with Tony, other people from the city, and we hammer this out, and then we approve it in open session at some point?
I would say that our options right now are to have a motion to accept the proposal or to accept the alternate concept. Anything else will go back to Tony, and then it'll work its way back from there. So if there's no motion to approve the original concept or the alternate concept, it will die for lack of a motion, or there can be a motion for either one of those options. The public comment times.
You have a motion to table it.
Well, I mean, it's not gonna be, if there's no motion, it's gonna go back to Tony to have him figure out what else to do, so.
Well, so are we in agreement that the initial concept that was proposed is a non-starter?
Yes.
Okay, we're in agreement on that, so we can set that aside.
So now the question is,
So we can just table it.
So, yeah, I mean,
Look at this and an alternate proposal to this.
So if the council is not willing to go forward with the alternate concept, then we can have this just die for lack of a motion, or.
I would say that we let it die for a lack of emotion, emotion. And Tony come back to us with another plan.
Kristen?
Yeah, so I guess we would need some more direction on what you would be looking for in an alternate plan for us to go back to the engineers, because the alternate concept before you is what Tony and the engineers developed after the last conversation. So if there's something different from this, that's feedback that we need for the engineers.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to form an alternate concept to the alternate concept that doesn't involve a one-way road in front of the police department.
We don't need a motion, they just need direction from.
Well, I had to make it last time to table it.
I would like to know what our other options are as far as the stop sign. Does it have to come all the way out where it's at?
That's an important piece.
That's my biggest problem with.
Does there have to be a stop sign?
Is there,
can we explore
if we
other?
removed the island that's at the corner down here, at Veterans and Cedar, that comes out into the road a little bit, yeah.
Up a Depot Drive.
If we were to remove that, I know it's new, but would that?
All that does is block the angled parking, that's.
You cannot remove that and remain angled park.
I just was thinking I would widen that a little bit or something.
Because you have angled parking on both sides. You have it on the east side of the Memorial Building and on the north side of the Memorial Building. So you have to have that curb or striping or whatever to fit that angled parking there.
I'd like to see what they can come up with as far as signage. I really like the idea about time of day. I work in the city all the time, and there's no parking at certain times of day. That might be a better option, and that type of thing. I don't know if they've looked at that or talked to them or not, but maybe they can come back to something like that.
Yeah, and that was something I would have to look at with MoDOT as well as far as the business route.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Because it would have to be, in my opinion, it would have to be open all the time. So.
And And we will also have to talk with the engineers about if we're going to need to increase the task order with them, because at some point, the funds that we allocated for this will run out on the engineering, the more concepts that we ask them to design for us as well.
Yes, that is correct.
So did we ask for, was our concept for a stop sign there because we're having accidents there?
So my understanding is that a previous council asked staff to work with the engineers on developing a plan that would improve the traffic flow and safety here. So this is the plan that the engineers have developed that does those things. So from an engineering perspective, this is their recommendation to you all. So if there are other things that you want us to look at, we'll have to weigh whether or not the engineering perspective is more important in this conversation, or some of the other things that have been brought forward for you all to consider.
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, I think if we're going back to the engineers, we need to just tell them that parallel parking's out of the picture. Because that's not, I don't feel like that's gonna fly with the council.
Yeah,
The public absolutely doesn't want parallel parking.
If I was gonna make a motion, I would accept the alternative concept. The stop sign, it might be an issue. But you know what, if they can't make a right turn there, they should just turn right on 58 and they'll learn. But, because most of those trucks that are gonna come up 58 to the grain have to turn left. And if they're making that turn, to me, that, I don't know, I don't drive big trucks, but if they're currently making the left turn,
one thing that we could do, I know Allstate was unable to be here tonight for this conversation, but there are some questions here that we're not engineers, so maybe we're not giving you the exact engineering answers. So we could ask, if you wanted to table this, we could ask them to attend the next meeting so that they could answer some of these questions, because maybe they did look at the stop sign and, figured out what worked and what didn't, but I can't speak to that. So maybe that would help answer some of the questions that you have. That's just a suggestion.
So are we good with tabling it until we could talk to the engineers, or?
I'll make a motion to table the name, the alternate concept.
The Veterans Parkway traffic improvements.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we table it to such time as they would be available? Because what I don't want to do is have it on the next meeting and then them not also be able to be at that meeting either.
Yeah, I would want it to be at their.
Yeah, all right.
And I did invite them tonight, but they had a conflict, so I will invite them again, see if we can get them to the next one.
Yeah, let's just work it out with their. Okay, can we just do it all in favor for that? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that is tabled until the engineers can be here to discuss again. The next item for consideration is bill number 2629, an ordinance setting forth the tax levy for the city of Pleasant Hill, Missouri for the year 2026.
All right, thank you. I bring forth bill number 26-29, an ordinance setting forth the tax levy for the city of Pleasant Hill for the year 2026. This ordinance has it at the maximum allowable tax levy of 1.6270. I recommend amending this ordinance and rolling it back to 1.0927.
For the record, that is what our current.
That is correct. That is what our
rate
current.
is.
Yes.
So this would be no tax increase. It would just continue this. Is there any discussion with council?
No, I think keeping the same is good.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve bill number 2629, an ordinance setting forth the tax levy for the city of Pleasant Hill.
I'll second.
Hold on. Well, right now, the ordinance as it is at the highest rate possible. What we need it rolled back to 1.0927.
Which is what bill 2629 does, correct?
No,
No.
Bill 2629 is at the highest available. So we would have to roll back the amount on
Okay.
Bill 2629.
So we just want to amend bill 2629.
We'll need two motions. First to amend the bill, second
second
to
to
approve the amended bill.
Okay, so I am making a motion to amend bill 26. No, not myself,
Yes, you're
29.
separate, yeah.
To roll it back.
So that way that would make the debt service rate at 0.559 and the total levy at 1.0927.
That is correct.
All right, that's the motion. Is there?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the council? Is there anyone from the public that would like to say anything about this? We will have a roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman Niner,
Yes.
Councilwoman Deemer,
Yes.
Councilman Patterson.
Yes.
Councilman Elliott.
Yes.
Okay, Bill 2629 has now been amended for a tax levy of 1.0927, which is the current rate. Is there a motion to approve Bill 2629?
I'll make a motion to approve bill 2629.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from council? Is there anybody from the public? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Councilwoman Niner,
Yes.
Councilwoman Deemer,
Yes.
Councilman Patterson.
Yes.
Councilman Elliott.
Yes.
Bill 2629 has passed as amended. Next item for consideration is bill number 2630, the proposed ordinance amending section 46-334 stop intersections and section 46-336 four-way stop intersections.
Good evening. Your next three items are all things that you approved the concepts of at the last meeting. These are the ordinances that actually change the code to put these changes in.
Okay, and I'm under the understanding that in order for our police department to enforce those signs, we have to have the ordinances.
That's correct.
With that being said, is there a motion on bill number 2630? Is there any way we can put all these together?
No, they should be separate.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve bill number 2630.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion among council? Is there anyone?
Just gotta get my head around which one that is, I'm sorry.
So that one is,
Yeah, I'm looking here for,
Boardman and Cedar is the first one.
over here,
Yes.
okay.
okay. Anyone from the public? We'll have a roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman Niner,
Yes.
Councilman Deemer.
Yes.
Councilman Patterson.
Yes.
Councilman Elliott.
Yes.
All right, bill number 2630 has passed. We'll now look at bill number 2631, a proposed ordinance designating a portion of Campbell Street as a one-lane road.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion among council? Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? We'll have a roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman Niner,
Yes.
Councilwoman Deemer,
Yes.
Councilman Patterson.
Yes.
Councilman Elliott.
Yes.
Our next bill is Bill number 2632, a proposed ordinance amending section 46-334 stop intersections.
This is commercial and Veterans Parkway.
I'll make a motion to approve. I've lost where I'm at. Bill 2632.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion among council? Is there anyone from the public? We'll have a roll call vote, please.
Councilman Reiner?
Yes.
Councilman Dean?
Yes.
Councilman Patterson?
Yes.
Councilman Elliott?
Yes.
The bill number 2632 is passed. Our next item for discussion is the marijuana dispensary location distances.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start this one anyway. What we have before you is some information regarding our current ordinances that we have on file and how they, state statute, once marijuana became legal, allows local governments or government entities to control the time, place, and manner in which how you regulate that. So initially, when this was approved, the distances between a dispensary, as what we're talking about here, and any church, school, daycare, and or residential home was 1,000 feet. We do, the city has been approached, staff has been approached by a business owner who does have an approved dispensary permit through the state of Missouri and has a desire to utilize that permit within our city limits. When we got to looking, as they were working to try to identify a location where they could utilize their approved permit, it was very limited that there was anywhere along, obviously, the 7 highway commercial corridor as the ideal place or the desire that they have where that could be under the existing distances that are approved in ordinance. So based on their desire, they asked if there was anything that could be done that would open up areas along the 7 highway commercial corridor that would allow a dispensary to be in place. With us tonight that can answer any questions, probably maybe better than what we can outside of just what is in the ordinance, is the Dickersons. So I will again ask you how you all want to proceed. Again, staff has provided you all some information in your packet as far as the memo, some approximate distances based on just a GIS map of the existing church, daycare, and or schools within color-coded distances accordingly. There was some information in there about some local entities around us and what their requirements are. Again, this is just for you all to decide. This came, like I said, following an inquiry by someone looking to put a dispensary in town. I think I noted it real quick, but beyond the commercial, like the distances of those 3 types of other entities, church, daycare, or school, currently our ordinance also requires that it has to be 1,000 feet from any residential area as well. So again, the limitation of where one could go, we were not really able to find one when we were working with Mr. and Mrs. Dickerson on a location that they could come within the city limits.
Do we know if this is medical or recreational?
Anymore, recreational has been approved. It would be, and they can answer that question probably then. My understanding, it would be for either. Is that correct? Yes.
So you have noted in here that estimated sales tax revenue would be at $50,000. Do we know where that number came from, and would that all come to the city?
So we had those conversations with Mr. and Mrs. Dickerson. Obviously, they know their business better than what we do. Additionally, though, however, the state of Missouri, the Department of Revenue, has put out estimated dollar amounts. It's a little bit trickier, though, because typically in sales tax tracking, it's obviously done through, credit card purchases and zip codes, but the Department of Revenue has put that out. So historically though, when marijuana was legalized on a recreational basis, as some of you may recall, cities were allowed to put an additional sales tax on the ballot to their voters for an additional amount on top of the sales tax that you already have. Our voters in Pleasant Hill have already approved that. So while, whatever their sales might be, and again, as we've kind of talked, sales tax records are closed records, but 2.7, the city would get 2.75% of our traditional amount we have now, plus the additional, oh my gosh, my mind's going. 3? What was the maximum? 3? Maximum 3%.
I thought there was some kind of regulation that said that you couldn't do that extra sales tax.
You can't on medical, but you can on recreational.
Okay.
There was also an issue with counties in that kind of issue, so that might be something you're thinking of too.
Yeah, because I remember where some, like maybe it was a lawsuit or
yes.
Maybe I'm thinking outside the box here, but where it had to be held in escrow and then was eventually paid back?
Yes, that was a Cass County issue. That was an issue throughout the state, just with how the language read, but it's very clear the city can impose its 3% tax.
Okay.
And this $150,000, that's based on the 2.75 and the 3% combined that we would receive specifically.
Estimated,
yes.
So our notes mentions these maps, but it's black and white.
Oh, I'm sorry. So the first map that you come to after the memo.
This is the one I printed. Oh, man, you printed it, because I went through it a few days ago.
Yeah. So the first map after the memos in your packet, if it's black and white, just count 2 more pages back. Where the orange dot is approximately the location, and Missy corrects me if I'm wrong, approximately the location of the church, school, or daycare.
No, sorry. So the orange dot is the 100-foot allowable for an alcohol sales location or a liquor sales location. The blue, what is essentially blue, or the bigger circle, is the current 1,000 location. So I do want to clarify, this is just a general area. The actual 1,000 feet is calculated by foot traffic way. So it could be anywhere from, and it is calculated by the closest exterior wall of a freestanding building to the property line of the adjoining daycare, church, or school. And so again, this is just a general map just to show you a location of where they may or may not be allowed.
And the orange dots for liquor stores
Are
or
where-
alcohol sold?
That is the same location of where an alcohol sales venue could be placed.
So that's like 100, that's the
That's
difference
100
of
feet.
100
Yeah.
versus 1,000.
So that is the difference. So like that is where a church, school, or daycare might be located, and the orange dot reflects like that's the radius of how close or far away somewhere can sell alcohol. Then the blue is reflecting how far away it would be if for a dispensary in the same general location.
But that blue does not take into consideration the residential part of it.
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay.
Because again, it's a little bit more challenging. The way in which the distance is measured for alcohol is different. Alcohol sales is different by state law than how we measure for a dispensary. So that's why it's a little bit challenging. We were just trying to provide you though with some sort of a visual on what that 1,000 feet looks like.
So basically, those blue areas that are on there would be areas where if we just remove the residential part of it, of the ordinance or whatever, that's where dispensaries would not be able to be.
That is correct.
And the blue circles, that residential piece of that, was that an original state requirement, or was that just something we did?
So that was the maximum. Cities can choose to go with a lesser distance, but the maximum amount you can keep them from a residential area is 1,000 feet per state law. And then individual cities can lessen that, you just can't go more than that.
And the only thing I would modify there is that the state law is for schools, daycares, and churches. The city added the residential
That's
piece.
what I was, okay, that was what I was trying to do.
My only question would be if we adjusted the residential part, does that even leave us a spot? 'Cause it really doesn't look like it.
What did Zach ask?
He asked if we just removed the residential portion, would that open up any space along there that one could locate? And again, broadly, the answer is gonna be, it's still very small. I don't know, I can't give you that direct answer because again, the radius map is general. We would need to pick a location and then use the context of the state law and actually measuring it out because it has to be a lawful pathway. So like you can't take it and go like across somebody's property. Like it has to go out to the sidewalk or out to the road easement, down to a crosswalk, down to the sidewalk. I mean, that's the verbiage in the state statute. So I can't give you a yes or no answer in that just because I agree with you. I don't think that even by removing the 1,000 feet from a residence, it opens it up enough to be able to locate one, but I can't say for certain without, again, identifying a location and then using the verbiage in the state law to measure it.
Well, I don't like the idea of decreasing the separation between schools, daycares, and churches. But residential and open ideas.
So you're saying you would want to stick with the 1,000?
I would. Lee Summit's doing the same thing. Harrisonville's doing the same thing. Harrisonville's dog town, so they're doing it. We can't do any worse.
Is there a way for us to differentiate between schools and churches and like just to apply it to just schools or?
Yes. You could pick different limits for each one.
Okay.
I like that idea. I like,
And just to be clear too, we're talking secondary and elementary schools.
Not high school.
That is, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't. And daycares, was that added to ours too? Or is
Yes,
part?
that is in state law and in the city code.
But we can remove daycares.
Yes.
Can we, okay, I'm just checking.
And daycares are not included in the verbiage on alcohol sales. It is just schools and churches.
I did make some notes, but I had so many papers in front of me tonight, I can't find them. I think part of the question is that we can't look at it just in dollars and cents as to what it can bring us, even though I think the potential is phenomenal. I think we have to look at it as what do we want Pleasant Hill to be known for? You know, what does it do for Pleasant Hill? Does it increase our value? Does it, you know, just. But then I look at it, I've probably taken 50 phone calls in the last 2 days since I made a Facebook post and several Facebook comments. It's already out there. You know, it's coming to Pleasant Hill whether we want it to or not. You know, if they can find it, and I'm not speaking just to you guys, anybody, okay? So I don't mean any disrespect there. But if somebody finds a location that meets that criteria, it's coming. So I'm not opposed reducing the 1,000.
Is there any impact? Right. Is there any impact from the police department? Like, what's the police department's take on this?
No. There really is. I mean, there are state requirements to DHSS that regulate the sale, the manufacture, distribution, the sales tax, the collection thereof. On our end, it's basically look at what the state law says, and whatever ordinances we enact, and that's the way we'll follow it.
And I agree with you that it's here.
But I think that dispensaries have probably a more strict regulation rate than liquor stores. And we have a liquor store on almost every street corner in Pleasant Hill. Sometimes it's like right beside each other.
And I apologize, I don't mean to be disrespectful. Mr. Dickerson and Dr. Dickerson are both here, so if you have questions, again, they're gonna be able to answer your questions more about regulations. How many, they have other dispensaries, so like I said, if you want them to present, we had told them, ask them if they wanted to be here as this conversation was discussed, but.
Do you have a location that you're looking at?
We do, we have a couple of locations. Do you have an address for them?
No, there's one is possibly maybe the A1 liquor, is that?
We understand that's closed now.
Okay.
And then there's another one at the Creamery, it's the same building the Creamery's in on the south side, it's in.
Celebrate.
Yeah, that would be our first choice, if we could get that one, because it would have a drive-through.
So in your other locations, have you noticed, and maybe you can't answer this question, but have you noticed an increase in crime or anything like that outside of your dispensary, or?
If you don't mind, I'll just speak to that for a minute. So right now we have locations in Belton, Carthage, Lebanon, and Valley Park, Missouri. When we first opened in Carthage, we actually helped the police catch a robbery that was next door, because we have to have cameras on every square foot of the building plus the outside. So we've never had any problems. I mean, I would encourage you to reach out to any of those police, to see. We work with them very well. We've never had any issues. And, you have to be 21 to get into a dispensary unless you have a medical card in the state of Missouri. We scan it, we double check their ID, it's like you said, it's more regulated than.
So you can't even go in one if you're 18?
That's correct, yes ma'am. Yeah, you have to be 21 to enter. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yes ma'am. Thank you.
You mentioned a drive-through. How do
Possibly.
you verify IDs through a window?
It's like a bank. It's like a bank. They have to actually physically hand us their ID.
Do I hear if there's anybody from the public that has anything to say? Is there anyone from the public that would like?
Are you looking right at me, Don?
Well, Ed was acting like he's
He's
very intentional when he stands.
First, I'll steal your thunder. Probably don't have my thunder.
I could tell Ed was itching to get up.
No offense to you business people. I didn't know this was on the agenda, okay? For the last 14 or 15 years, I can't remember exactly, I've been the defense attorney on the Cass County Drug Court, okay? Cass County Drug Court is alternative sentencing for people that have committed felonies with drugs. They go through coerced treatment, rehabilitation, or they go to prison, okay? Right now, I think there's 30-some in there. In the last 14 years, I don't know how many hundreds have come through drug court. The first drug any of them ever used was marijuana. First one they list, from the age of 12 to 20. First thing they ever used was marijuana. I do not want to see our city do anything to make it easier for these kids to get drugs. You ever seen somebody go to a liquor store that was 21 and turn around and give it to somebody that was 18 in the parking lot? Did you ever do that when you was kids? You never did? Everybody call you non-believers.
So, I actually used to live in Buffalo, New York.
Good.
You go to Canada at 19 and it was legal.
All right. Did you ever bring it back across the border?
No.
So my point of the story is, do not encourage any marijuana use. Now, Pat, you're the mathematician. The way I figured the calculations, if this maximum sales tax is going to be 5 3/4%, right? 2 3/4 and 3%, was that right? What I heard?
Yeah.
Do the math. How much you got to sell in a year to collect $150,000 at 5 3/4%.
I don't have a calculator.
Has anybody got a calculator?
I'm sure it's a lot.
$2.6 million. If I did it right. I think you divide it by 5 3/4%.
You do.
And what's it come up?
$2.6
million in 1 year of marijuana sold in the city. What's your sales in your other stores per month?
All right, we're not, this is not.
See,
This is.
I rest my case.
No, we're not gonna, if you would wanna comment, you're gonna comment to the council.
And I'm serious about this. Do not bring any dispensaries to Pleasant Hill. If you got any kids out there you don't like, bring it in. They all end up, yes, they can go get it, but why make it so readily available here to all these people? $2.6 million worth of sales of marijuana in Pleasant Hill in 1 year to get you $150,000? Think about that. In Harrisonville, I mean, all of this. Do you want that in our city? Make it 5,000 feet from a residence. Don't bring this to our city. I've dealt with it for 14 years. I've heard all the stories. I've heard all the drug usage. I've heard all the crimes they've committed. There's nothing they won't do to get the drugs once they get started on it. Don't let it get started here. Please, please. We do not need marijuana in this town.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate your.
And everything I've just told you is the absolute truth. And you did the math.
Again, I'm J.R. Brown. I live at 800 Coachman Drive. I'm here tonight as a Pleasant Hill resident and also representing the pastoral staff of Echo Church. I'm also here in agreement with Pastor Roger Smith from Grace Family Fellowship, Pastor Brent Blaze of Grace and Truth Baptist Church, Pastor Paul Webb of the Mission Church, Pastor Jason Shipley of Big Creek Baptist Church, and Pastor Tim Castile of his church. I want to encourage the council to consider why the state established a 1,000-foot standard between dispensaries and places like churches and schools. That number wasn't chosen at random. Did you know that Pleasant Hill, we knew because we've already discussed it, Pleasant Hill currently has 13 places, if my count is correct, where alcohol is sold. I believe that's the same number as churches we currently have open within our city limits. While real estate for a dispensary may be limited today, it does exist. Reducing the distance requirement could eventually allow dispensaries to become just as concentrated as our liquor stores, which your graphic gave me some really good proof of. Potentially putting one in every strip mall along 7 Highway. Pleasant Hill is a small town. We're not Lee Summit, we're not Belton, we're not Raytown, we're not Carthage. There are some things we may never have here, and honestly, that's part of what makes Pleasant Hill Pleasant Hill. We may never have a Target, an AMC theater, or even a single popular sit-down chain restaurant. What's a chili guy got to do to get a Chili's or a 54th Street Grill? Many of us believe that a limited, carefully controlled number of dispensaries should be one of those things that we choose to keep limited. Thank you for your time.
John Self again. They're going to get it. They get it from somebody. Knowing that, I do feel like, I don't really care one way or another because they're going to get it. But I have recently watched one of the most intelligent, beloved people in my very small circle of family go from an outgoing, well-spoken, brilliant young man to somebody who literally wants to get out of a psychiatric hold in a hospital so that he can go home and smoke weed and play video games. It's not very often that I get this upset. I respectfully request that the council consider what this does to the kids of our small town. You know, we have kids that ride scooters around and we complain about that, but that's a small town thing. And we have kids that drive pickup trucks with loud exhaust, and that's a small town thing. But I've seen what this does. And I've never smoked weed. You know, I understand it has medicinal effects for certain people. I'm not averse to that. But I think going into this without any kind of restriction or consideration, I think opening the door to this until it is researched, I think bringing this to a small community is not worth the money. We can find the money. Is this about the people or is this about the money? Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary McCarty, address 1210 Faulkner Drive. I had a son that had a drug problem, then I had to go get help for him when he was a teenager, and we all know, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. This town does have a problem with drugs, and I don't think we need to be bringing marijuana into this town. And just in the last year and a half, I've lost 3 people to drug overdoses, so I don't support this.
Thank you.
Cameron McCarty, 1210 Faulkner Drive. I am a member of Echo Church. I actually teach the youth on Wednesday nights at church bi-weekly. I just want to state the obvious that when someone talked about a liquor store on every corner, the majority of the room laughed. I work in Independence, Missouri, and when I talk to people about Pleasant Hill, there's 3 things: the People's Theater, the small town vibe, and the liquor store all over it. If you look at this, just this diagram in itself, no wonder why we have a liquor store on every corner. And if we end up having the same regulations from liquor stores to this, we're also going to have a dispensary problem, and it's going to be a laughing stock as the liquor stores are. I just want to state the obvious that a lot of people in here laughed. I don't think it's a laughing matter. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anything else from council?
Is there an action that you're looking for tonight?
Direction on if you would like us to draft an ordinance amendment.
Not at this point, for me.
Anybody else want to chime in on that?
Well, I'm just gonna be honest, I'm kind of in a conundrum. I know it's here, I know it's coming, but I still go back to what I said originally when I said I can't find my notes, is what do we want Pleasant Hill to be known for? So, I'm with Zach right now, I'm not ready to do something like this.
I agree with that. I moved here from South Kansas City. I've seen how that landscape has changed over time. And I understand that we do need to find a revenue base, but I'm not ready to make that change on this one.
I'll say ditto to all of it. I agree with everyone.
Then unfortunately, the, looks like the work, we have had this discussion. I mean, we're going to keep everything the same. But this was some very good discussion, and I appreciate everybody that came up to talk about it. Our next item for discussion is the park wayfinding signage.
Thank you, Mayor. On a much lighter note, the park board had a meeting on August 11th, and their discussion was trying to figure out how to find wayfinding signage for the parks. This is an effort that's been going on for quite some time. 2021 is the last documentation I'd seen on some signage that they've been looking for. There was 7 different sign locations that were called out to identify 12 different parks. It was a good, healthy discussion with the park board, and the 3 concerns they had was pricing. So the only contractor we had look at this to this point was the original contractor who did the same signage at the parks for the P2 projects. The wayfinding internal signage that we have was used as a point of reference to kind of design the street signage for MoDOT. Their initial quote came back at $30,653, and what had been being carried over the last number of years in the budget was only $4,000 for park signage. So obviously a drastic difference between the amounts there. The second discussion point that they had was one of the items called out. It was listed as PHR3 school campus. This was a staff decision that was not designed to take people to all of the different Pleasantville schools. It was for the areas that we use for our recreational programs. The Skyline Field, the Girls North and Girls South, that kind of stuff that's up in that same general location. So that's one of the locations that was called out. The park board was concerned if that was a school-related item, if the school should be contributing some of the funds for that. That's a discussion that can also still be had. And then the last piece was the park board had was, does this meet MoDOT requirements for the park compliance? The initial quote did not specifically say that it did meet those criteria, and so that's some of the stuff we'd have to go through some engineering costs. But this was just an additional screenshot of what we're looking at as far as we're going to put these signs out in place. So just something to bring in front of you that was discussed at park board, because we're still trying to keep this on front burner because it's something that's very important now.
Okay, so can I just have some clarification about what amount of money is actually in the budget for these signs? Because I was under the impression that at the work session it was $5,000, and now it looks like the number is $25,000. So I would just like some clarification if possible.
Unless Mimi corrects me, I just looked and we budgeted $25,000 in the capital improvement assessments.
We did, I actually went back and looked at that, and we did, however, I don't know how that, I'm not sure when that changed, because I think historically it has been $5,000. This was brought to Park Board, but Park Board did not actually come up with this plan. So some of this is not brought forward by Park Board.
So basically, to stay under budget, out of these 7 locations, we need to pick 5. Is that approximately accurate? Just doing percentages. You're saying it's gonna be 30 for 7, so 5 should be under 25, right?
Well, I think this is an estimate, right?
It is. This is just the first contractor's estimate. We have not taken this out to market. We have no idea where this is gonna come in at, so we have the one single contractor put a number on this. This is something we are gonna look at taking it to bid.
So you're asking if we want you to go ahead and take it to bid
I'm
as
also
is?
looking to see if you guys want some other locations than what's listed. I do have the 12 different amenities that we've actually called out between those 7 locations. So it's kind of looking for comparison.
So these sign locations though, that is what the park board had said is they need signs at those locations.
They had called out specific locations. This was the kind of consolidation of some of those to make them to where they're sandwich boards rather than individual signs on either side of the road.
So we have reached out to MoDOT trying to get some guidance because again, while Park Board had some priorities of what spaces that they wanted to highlight within the community, we know that MoDOT is potentially going to limit us and the number of signs that we can obviously put on 7 Highway. the majority of the signs that have been identified that could try to capture the most number of spaces on one sign location is what we had come up with, that then Jeff ultimately took to Park Board to, again, try to meet their goal of the specific spaces that they wanted to get people off of basically 7 Highway or 58, into parks. And so, but again, like I said, we have reached out to MoDOT actually now on 2 occasions and have not heard back yet. Because ultimately, while we've come up with 7, they may come across and say, actually, no, you're only allowed, 5 or whatever, to which then to try and capture those same spaces that Park Board has identified in their goals, those like extra, instead of having one that has, 2 different locations, we may have to make it a little bit bigger so that it just kind of points them in the right direction if it's not at that specific intersection.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but when we had our work session with Park Board, signage was one of their top priorities.
It was, yes.
It's been something they've been asking for years.
It's been a priority for probably a decade. So
It has
along
been
the
a
way,
priority.
some things have been done. So like if you notice, at Cedar and Randolph, there is like a small sign that is already attached to the existing stop sign that kind of points you to the direction of the park. And so there's a few things along the way that have been done to try and again achieve the goals of Park Board, but ultimately wayfinding signage has been a priority, I would say, for probably 10 years or better.
And Jeff, in that Park Board meeting, you had an example of the style that you were looking for, right? It matches kind of what we already have at the Hill and in the City Park.
That is correct.
that type of thing.
Well, I'd like to see if we can get a bid that is within budget that hits these main locations that they're suggesting.
Yeah, I'd actually like to know what MoDOT would approve before we actually find out what we're.
And we can, that's kind of our purpose. We just wanted to initially present it to you all to say, this is what we've come up with as far as identifying locations to meet the goals of Park Board and the spaces that they wanted to direct people to. Same thing, we will go forward if we're generally, as long as we're meeting what your all's goals and desires are with the locations that we've come up with. But just as you stated, Zach, before we, I'm gonna say, waste the time of a bunch of vendors getting bids, we also need to verify that MoDOT would allow these, and that is a component that we are still waiting on. Our last time we emailed them was on July the 28th, and we haven't heard back yet, but we will continue that efforts, because again, I don't want whoever it might be putting a bunch of time and effort into, bidding out these locations, and ultimately MoDOT comes back and says, sorry folks, you can have, 35, whatever it might be.
I think it would be excessive to have, I know that I was trying to figure out which one, but to me, it'd be excessive to have one at Country Club, one at Myrtle, and one at Broadway. I know that they're all pointing, like the soccer's, I know everybody has trouble finding the soccer, but at the same time, we have like Cedar, and I did drive around and look for the signs. I don't want it to, Cedar or Myrtle and 7 already looks like a post cross. It's like a post, I don't know, museum. But so that's kind of scary to put any more posts up right there. But
and we actually agree. We have, there is, as we've talked in other discussions, like sign clutter is a thing, and so we do. And the right of way along 7 Highway is very, very tight. And then unfortunately, as we were in the middle of kind of creating this over the last, few months, when they did the sidewalk improvements, one of the ADA requirements, before the crosswalk lights were attached to the stop light, and now they have to have them separately. So there is now a whole nother pole when they finished up the sidewalk project. The crosswalk light is on a whole separate pole. So it is a concern. Again, that's why we want feedback, but at the same time, Jeff and I are working obviously the best to mitigate, we know this is a goal of Park Board's.
So this list here wouldn't be the final list of what the signs.
Not necessarily MoDOT, because
this is their wish list, but it would still come back.
This is what we're trying to put in front of MoDOT, which we have not got recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah. So
But if MoDOT came back and said, hey, you can have all of these, it would come back to us then to say, yes or no, we want all of these or not.
If that is what you all want, and I would prefer that too, to get that guidance and direction, yes. We wish we would have known what MoDOT's was before we brought this to you, but we just don't know yet. But at least we can still make progress, getting this in front of you, getting some feedback, and then as soon as we hear from MoDOT, we can bring it back before we would go out to bid, again, at this point, to obviously also make sure we're within our budget.
And like I said before, not all of this is what Park Board specifically wanted, so if there's a limitation, then we can narrow it down to make sure that we're encompassing specifically what Park Board wants, I think.
It would, in my opinion, that yes, I mean, they would have that recommendation in essence that would be coming back to you.
That's my only concern, is I would like to see the recommendation from the park board, when this goes back.
Marry the two between what MoDOT says and what the Park Board says.
Yeah.
Is there any other discussion? Does anybody from the public want to comment on that? All right, let's move on to the next topic of discussion, the vacant building registry.
Okay, Mayor, so at the last meeting, Ms. Murray brought forth the vacant building registry with some direction from the council that was asked to be brought back before you guys. So in 2023, we were proposed a vacant building registry by, again, a resident here within the city limits. The original vacant registry was proposed only to apply to the historic district, downtown commercial district. At that time, the mayor and council at that time requested that it, or stated that if it was going to be enacted, that it would need to, they would prefer that it encompasses all commercial throughout the city, not just the historic district. So after review of what was proposed by the resident, staff did develop some things, came back with some policies. We sent it to our legal department for review. What they proposed back to us was more residentially focused. So I guess what we're asking for from direction from council tonight is, how do you want us to proceed? With what information? I mean, the best thing of what we're looking for is at the bottom of this memo, what our concerns are and what recommendations we're looking for from council.
So to kind of echo what Missy said, you know, obviously the staff at the time had some direction. It was obviously a different council at the time. So at the end of the day, we're just looking for your all's goals, what you're trying to achieve with this, so that we can go back and try and create a policy, an ordinance that fits what it is that you all are looking to achieve by implementing a vacant building registry. So when we were doing some obviously review of others, a draft that legal had provided us, these are the questions that came kind of to our minds that we would like answers on, so that again, we're meeting the goals of you all by looking at, you know, implementing this registry. So it is obviously pretty lengthy, so that might be something that.
So these are all the questions from 2023 that were never answered back at that time? Is that?
Not all of them. So again, there was initial draft brought forward. It had some relevance to more residential than it was, but again, at the end of the day, it didn't really move forward at that point. There was no, at the time, there really wasn't guidance from the majority of the council that this is what they wanted to do, so staff didn't really necessarily proceed. Now that we've received direction from you all that this is a priority at the last meeting and that we wanted to move forward, these are things we would like to know or get your feedback on so that we can draft a policy that meets your goals and desires of implementing this registry.
And is any of this different than what was talked about in July of last year? It was talked about at a work session last year. So this is kind of what you guys covered in that work session?
I'd have to go back. I don't honestly recall from that work session.
I don't personally think we have enough problems with trying to staff and cover code enforcement. I don't know why we would try to do a citywide vacant registry. I could see why we would need it in our historic district for preservation purposes, but I don't see why we would need it.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the downtown area, the issue there is that the buildings are so close together and have adjoining walls, right? And so a vacant building is going to, you know, there's gonna be more chances of something happening inside that vacant building and not going noticed. And then the building next to it is gonna be in jeopardy because, you know, it's that other building is vacant. So I think the, you know, at least for me, you know, let me hear from the rest of you that, you know, I think we need to start with the historic district and then move forward from there if we so choose.
I agree, Mayor. The only other value that I saw in knowing what's open is, you know, we're getting this Economic Development Council started having some sort of knowledge, you know, what's occupied and what's available elsewhere would be helpful. But I mean, based on all these questions, it's probably better to start focusing in very specific areas as opposed to some wide-ranging edict.
I would agree. And I don't know if this is where I want to ask my question or not, but I look at the Tucker Hotel. So where do we get the teeth to hold property owners accountable for not making a needed repair that needs to be made to a property to keep it from?
Your property maintenance code and dangerous building ordinances.
And so the registry would, I think, cover that as well, like, because if it's vacant for so long, they would have a penalty, correct?
Yeah, I would imagine that you would want your policy to state that they have to follow all applicable property maintenance codes. If it's just maybe a special emphasis.
I mean, they should be doing that anyways, though, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, if anything else, it should be a situation where, you know, maybe it's a additional insurance policy or something because of, you know, the damage that it could cause if something happened from that building to the next building over or what have you.
But, I mean, I agree with what Zach said, or Jessica, either one. I think we need to start, because we haven't been able to get it implemented, I think we need to start small and then branch it out. So probably doing the historic buildings is should be our primary focus.
I agree.
I don't know if we do it, do you inspect vacant buildings? I don't, like, that's the, that was just a question, you know, we can't like.
So we don't, unless we see an imminent, safety hazard, we cannot enter a premises without permissions from the property owner.
So the vacant registry, I'm sorry, I'm kind of brain dead, but the vacant registry isn't gonna give you any authority to go in and inspect that building for
No, ma'am.
violations.
No, ma'am.
So what does this do for us
The
then?
vacant registry, how it was proposed is to allow us to be able to, monitor those vacant buildings and have a local contact for those, what the square footage is, allow the, emergency personnel to have access to that information as well. So if there is a catastrophe, a fire, or someone's in there, they know who to contact, and it's a local contact. So it's generally information of what building is vacant, who's the owner, who's responsible to maintain it.
Well, and some of these questions would imply some sort of regular inspection if we choose to answer them. But there's 16 of them. That's a work session plus.
I think in general, what we're looking for is what is your intent of this policy? Because it can be as simple as just having a list of people to contact, or it can be as, you know, big as a whole inspection program and registrations and fees. So I think if we at least have a general idea of what you're looking to get out of it, then we can go back and kind of start to answer some of these questions based on the broad feedback. These are meant to be discussion starter type questions of the things that we're gonna have to be thinking about when we draft a policy. So if we understand what your goal with this registry is, we'll be able to better answer these.
My goal is purely safety. I mean, that's where I'm coming from, but to have, like, if a building's on fire, you need to know if someone's living in it. I mean, if there is just empty, I don't want the firemen to run in to an empty building to save no one. Like, that'd be where that's the most part is what I am. But I also, want to hold them responsible for maintenance of the building too, of some sort. Like, they're old buildings, and if they're not taken care of, we know what happens. And we don't want we don't want 3 or 4 buildings to fall like it happened on Gray's Lot. We don't really want Tucker to be torn down, but we're at that point where it has to be. So I don't know how we would implement that. I don't know if they could register and get a certificate with it. I don't know. I'm not saying they have to be up to code, because I know that some of them still have knob and tube wiring and all of that, but at least some sort of a safety inspection once a year or every 2 years, maybe every 5 years. I don't know, but just some sort of communication that it has been checked on and validated. Where if someone owns it, it's from another state that isn't in there. Like, they're just, you don't know what animal's going to get in there and chew the wires, and, just some sort of.
I think too, if there was even if there was some kind of local contact or whatever, so that way, I mean, the thing about it is we're starting up this economic development council, right? There's vacant buildings. If we have information on those buildings, then we know who to put people in contact with. If some kind of business wants to start up and say, hey, I really would love to do something in that building. I mean,
and if that is your goal, I would encourage you to maybe make this for all commercial property. I understand the desire to maybe start small, but if that is one of the main goals of this, then I think we should have it be for all commercial, so that we are able to say that we have an active list of properties that are vacant. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're available, but at least knowing, so that when those people come to us, we have somewhere to start.
I'm sorry, I'm playing devil's advocate, because what I keep hearing from, and maybe I'm misspeaking, but I thought what I was hearing from Carla was that this vacant registry was going to help prevent us from having a whole bunch of vacant buildings downtown.
That comes in the fees and registration. I'm not sure how it all works, but that's what Carla was simply. It would prevent them from being empty, because.
Right, so if that is the goal, then that looks like a different enforcement mechanism.
I was gonna say, I think there's 2 different visions floating around here.
Right, and so that's why we need that direction from you all.
I think the direction would be, we all need to have a work session, at least one.
And that's,
I would
fine.
hope so.
Now that you have an idea of what we're looking for, I think that's helpful.
would you want to the voting?
I'm Bob White. I live at 116 North Campbell Street. I'm the economics end of the Pleasant Hill Historic District. The registry you're looking for exists. Booms Tracker was set up by Missouri Main Street. I have a list of all the historic buildings down here, the owners, as well as whether they're vacant or not. I will get you that list because I've got permission to do that.
I don't know if you need a motion or what, but I think
This is
we
just
need
discussion.
to probably come together and have a work discussion so that we can get on the same page as to what we want this registry to be.
I think we had.
It's been a most enlightening evening. But as vice chairman of the Fire and Ambulance Board, I think we would be very interested in helping you inspect and maintain at least a list, because we will find out first who needs help there, and we need to know what's going on in those buildings. So I would contact Chief Lopez, set it up.
Anyone else like to speak? Anything else from council? Are you in agreement to see about setting up a work session about this?
Yes. Absolutely.
Okay, well then we'll go on to the last topic for discussion, the fairgrounds rental policy.
Thank you, Mayor. City staff has received requests lately for renting amenities within the footprint of the Cass County Fairgrounds property, and currently there's no pricing structure or policy that allows for these areas to be rented. The existing policy, last I could find, was revised in 2021, and staff's looking for ways to increase traffic use and generate revenue after many of these areas receive valuable updates to make them more attractive. However, staff resources are also limited in the capacity to maintain these spaces, so we would definitely need to draft a policy that meets council goals while keeping our resources in mind. Currently, the only two areas that we have that have pricing structures for them is the Miller Lite Pavilion and the arena. The other areas of consideration are the motocross track, demolition derby track, carnival area, tractor pull track, and the south parking. And in your packet, you can see there's some different amenities that kind of go along with each of those areas. The current pricing structure is also a little bit segregated, where some of them have a non-profit versus a for-profit pricing structure. Some of them have a resident versus non-resident, weekday versus weekend. So we would definitely, we're looking for some council direction on how to write this policy in a way that kind of fits your goals, so that we can actually start putting the pricing structure together that makes sense.
And I'm just going to jump in here really quick for a little bit of additional background. We have a conflict where we have two groups that we know want to utilize the fairgrounds for a date in October. And when we were kind of looking through what past practice has been and a policy that we have on our website about field and building rentals, my direction to staff was clearly what we have in place doesn't really fit the need with how our fairgrounds are wanting to be utilized more now. So at that time I said, let's talk about that issue specifically, but also let's encompass some other things that we're dealing with when it comes to the fairgrounds, like people wanting to rent spaces that we haven't rent before, things like that. So I just want to make sure that that background was there. And so when we talk about that specific issue that we're facing for October, our practice has been that you can book these spaces online up to 1 year in advance. And so we have groups that maybe want to do recurring events at the fairgrounds on the same date, year after year. And so with our current setup of only allowing someone to book it online 1 year in advance, we're not giving that group an opportunity to book that event for the same weekend. So if we have two groups that we know want that space, we now have this struggle where our policy doesn't fit reality. So some things that I would like some direction on are, should we continue that practice of only allowing people to rent that space one in advance? Or is it something that you want to open up for people that have done events several years in a row? Or kind of what your thoughts are on that? How should we handle those that want the same date every year? Is that something that they can do 3 years in advance, 5 years in advance if they've had a successful event that we've had no issues with? And another thing, the fairgrounds is a large space, and so I think right now you're able to maybe book the pavilion and someone else can book, the arena or, whatever it might be. And my question to you all would be, do we want to keep it that way, or do you want it to be an all-in sort of thing? Or do you think that multiple events can happen at the fairgrounds at the same time? So I know, kind of like our last agenda item, there's a lot of things that we're kind of looking for direction on. But again, these are, discussion starters, really kind of trying to get your thoughts on, now that the fairgrounds have all these improvements and people are wanting to rent them, what are your thoughts on how we should go about that as staff and things that we should be implementing in our policy here?
I think it's a big topic that I don't know we can encompass tonight.
Yeah, I think, can we add that to our work session with the?
Our work session list.
Yeah, it definitely is not gonna be the same work session as.
Well, and
So
I wanna keep in mind that the date that we're looking at, I believe, is the first weekend in October, so that's why I wanted to.
2027.
2027, yes, but the 1 year in advance would be the first week of October of this year. So I'm trying to be mindful that we have this issue looming that staff really need direction on. So if you want this to be a work session, I believe we're talking utility rates at a work session at our next meeting. And then we had talked about another topic for a work session for the second meeting in September. So we might have to look at doing an additional meeting for all of these topics that involve lots of conversation.
You wanna get it right.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. I'm fine with doing an additional meeting. I know we have a time length, but we've had this issue with the dates for a while, with the dates that we have, so.
And I'll just add to that, we do have someone who is reaching out pretty consistently, I would say, as they want to look to rent the motocross track on a regular basis as well. So again, kind of to Kristen, from a time standpoint, I mean, obviously we have a desire to try and, generate revenue down there at that location, but we don't have any structure in place currently to give them information, to provide feedback to them. So along with hers is, we have this looming kind of October date. We do have a group that is kind of, persistent right now that they would really like to be able to rent that space down there on a reoccurring basis.
Well, I'll just add, I think it's a great problem to have.
It is a great problem to have.
Right?
So is everyone on the council okay with having a separate meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we can just get that scheduled.
Quickly.
Yeah, maybe just after Labor Day or something. Before the next meeting.
We do have a fifth Monday in this month, if you're interested.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
We do, yeah, we do.
That's next Monday.
I can't do that. I can't do that Monday. I'm not available that Monday.
The 31st.
Let me just double check.
I mean, if it's, let's just, get it worked out with.
If it's later.
With council that's available, and we'll get that figured out at a later date.
We may just need to push it to 6:30.
Is there anything else from the council?
Well, we've had a pretty full night, but I do have a couple of things I wanted to ask. I'm kind of scared to ask. So Jeff, I know that budget's tight and, staffing's tight and all that, but do you guys contract out for mowing and, weeding of the parks facilities, like at the Hill and down here at City Park and stuff?
City Park, we contract for mowing, but not landscaping or weeding. They do the weeding around the perimeter, like the curb lines, but not any of the landscape beds. The hill, the staff does internally.
I know, we thought we had some.
We had some negative, and so David and I deliberately went out and drove around looking at the parks, and there are some areas that are in some pretty bad shape, so I didn't know if that's something that we have the funding to do to contract that out, that, they did, up here at the Hill especially, all of that beautiful landscaping, but it's all covered up by weeds, so it's like.
That is part of our staffing concerns. We do not have staffing to be able to do that on a regular basis. We're doing everything we can to keep the main areas mowed, but as far as being able to get into those landscape beds and do preventative maintenance, that is one of the things we're not able to do on a regular basis by any means.
We are also operating with a vacancy currently.
That is true.
So,
And-
but is that vacancy the one that would be doing the landscaping? Is that?
No, that would be the mow crew. They would allow the rest of the staff to be able to do some of those preventive maintenance needs.
Well, and I know that Mark Crane and Dallas Shaver from the park board have been going out and doing some of the weeding and things like that. So it might be beneficial to maybe try to do some scheduled community days or something, where we can have people come together. It wouldn't cost the city any money.
So my next thing is for Missy. And I did touch on it a little bit, and I'm just gonna use Tucker Hotel as an example, but what do we need to do as a council to put more skin in the game to enforce property owners to repair those historic buildings? Because as a community, we cannot afford to have more buildings collapse on us.
I don't know. Lindsay, do you have any guidance on this? I'm deferring to legal on this one.
So the main enforcement mechanism the city has is municipal court citations, is one of the main central, this is how we enforce against somebody, is you get a penalty for not meeting the code. The ultimate penalty for that can be a fine as up to $500 per ticket, or up to 90 days in jail, which hardly ever happens. But that is our main mechanism, is municipal tickets. It's just that we are limited in how much we can set as fines, and there is also schedules through the courts on what those fines can be, depending on what type of violation it is. So it's a combination of more enforcement, but also small tickets don't always create action, and so there's just those two combinations of things.
Is there something we can attach as far as it being a historic district that it causes, like we had, it was talked about in that historic preservation meeting of whether or not losing those buildings could cause us to lose our historical,
Designation.
Yeah, designation. And so is there something that we can attach to that would require, maybe that's the registry, maybe that's part of our work session with the registry, but legally, is there anything that we can?
That's something I can look into, but just off the top of my head, it wouldn't increase the fine or increase any sort of penalty like that. It might give it the designation that it's historic and you need to take care of this property over, considering the entire community, but I don't believe there would be any additional penalty to put on a property.
I just have one more. I told you I've been on the phone a lot in the last couple of days. So I don't know if this is a Tony thing or a Jeff thing, but the corner of Highland and Country Club. So if I think Highland's the right street. If you're coming down Highland and want to turn onto Hillcrest, thank you. And you want to turn onto Country Club, you can't see because it's so overgrown with the brush or shrubbery or whatever.
It's actually a codes violation, Pat. Yeah.
Oh, Missy!
I'll take it away from them. It is me. I can reach out to that homeowner and let them know. We do, in our ordinance, it does designate that you cannot have, I'm gonna say landscaping, because I don't really know what that is there, so I'm gonna refer to it as landscaping. But it can't block the view at an intersection, so it has to be cut back and trimmed. It needs to be removed permanently. I don't feel like this is the first time we've heard about this intersection. So it may just be that we have to get a little more aggressive with that to have them permanently remove those landscaping.
Because you literally have to pull way up into Country Club off of Hillcrest before you can see if there's any oncoming traffic coming.
I have something. I'm gonna bring it up again. Price Chopper, the developers, I think I sent you an email, I don't know if it's yet, but, I'm hearing that they have removed all of the trucks and that there isn't, there's a lot of rumors going around. And I know in the last meeting, we talked about reaching out to the developers and finding out if there's an update, and I'm just seeing if they have one.
I do not have one. Can I? Sorry. I have one, so they do have an approved building shell permit, and they do have an approved, actual tenant finish permit. We are waiting on contractors on those, so, and they did just follow up with me on that permit this week, so.
Okay.
Put it down here. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. We have a roll call vote, please.
Councilwoman Niner?
Yes.
Councilman Demer?
Yes.
Councilman Patterson?
Yes.
Councilman Miller?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Like it's already.